Young lost was to the Colts.
The undefeated Colts.
Right.
That's fantastic.
I am
happy for
on
Vince
the
Young.
Tennessee Titans bandwagon.
Hell yeah, man.
I am on the Tennessee Titans.
I love those guys.
And this angers Bernie to no end.
Yeah.
What?
I grew up as a Houston Oilers fan.
Oh, okay.
And so they took
Don't take it out on Vince. Because
I'm not taking it on Vince. I'm taking it on Bud Adams.
Okay,
The terrible Tennessee Titans organization.
I just love that video of him flicking off the crowd. Was that in Houston when he was flicking off the crowd?
Nah, it's probably Tennessee. Who cares? He always flicks off people, give him money and support him. Fat old fuck. I mean, I've never in my life heard of a team moving cities and then it disappears. Even the Browns moved to Baltimore, and then they got the Browns back later.
Well, eventually.
Yeah, but the Oilers name is gone. I mean, there's another team in Houston now.
The Jazz even moved to Utah, and they're still the Jazz.
Yeah, the fucking Los Angeles Lakers. Nothing like better than when I go to Los Angeles visiting the lake. I mean, they just got rid of the Oilers. It's a team I followed my whole life, and that's why I don't watch pro football.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
When are the Rams going to move? You got to think. What is LA going to pick up the Rams? You think?
Again?
I don't know. I mean, LA seems like, why is there not a professional football team in LA? I know they had one.
Because I think they have a problem getting the stadium situation resolved. I think that's what it is.
Would they play in the Coliseum? Or they'd have to build one?
That's the thing. I think every owner who's willing to do it or whatever, like, okay, we'll play in the Coliseum, but I want 200 whatever, to upgrade the Coliseum.
That's another thing, man. Why do we get pro sports so much goddamn money? I don't have any other business where the taxpayers have to pay for their place of business.
Well, that's like the Superdome. Like the Superdome was rebuilt on taxpayer money. Like
right, and all of it's the premise of like, oh, well, something goes wrong, we can use it as an emergency building.
Yeah, no shit.
I
mean, Katrina, that was the most useful that building's been in 40 decades.
Yes, up until this season.
I don't think it's 40 decades old, though. Just to be sure.
When Lewis and Clark came across the Mississippi, they found the Superdome.
The Indians had fashioned it together with sticks and concrete.
And then the Colonials had ye old dome. The Superdome would have been an interesting investment. I wonder how much you could have bought the Superdome for right after Katrina.
Oh, man.
Just if you would have...
I think the repairs were something like $300 million.
I believe it.
And of that, like, the guy who owns the Saints ended up paying like $10 million out of pocket, and the rest was all government bailout stuff. Or not bailout,
come on, that's a national emergency. It's not like a bailout because a bad team. I mean, that was a natural disaster.
Well, they had a couple seasons where they probably could have gone from there.
Well, no, that was the thing too. Is like they were nervous that the Saints weren't. I mean, the Saints spent a whole season not at home. And they were nervous that the Saints were just going to move to like Oklahoma or wherever else or San Antonio.
You think the NFL, well, maybe not the Saints, but you think the NFL generally probably wants a team in LA.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just based on some of the footage that I saw and some of the stories that I read, I bet $200 million of the $300 million was spent on bleach. That's what I would do.
I was going to make the joke, but I thought it might be inappropriate.
I would have.
I'm glad you made it though.
That place was so. And it's nothing against the people. I mean, they're clearly in a horrible situation, but they had no plumbing.
And that bleach comment was like really before the flood, really, just to clean out. A lot of the damage was done before Katrina.
Yeah, just to clean out the 1990s 0-18 season.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I've heard, like you said, no plumbing and just too many people in there, and I mean, I can't imagine being trapped in a situation like that.
No, and it was in, August in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. August and September.
God, the smell in there. Just, ugh.
All the humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
How many people were in there? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
I don't know.
I know they had rated it a certain amount of people, and it was probably twice that.
The only thing I remember from that specifically was just how, first of all, Katrina clearly defined what a thin line there is between civilization and just raw mayhem.
Yeah.
It was instant decline. I mean, remember people were sniping hospitals? Do you remember that?
No.
The Superdome sheltered 26,000 people.
Jeez.
Wow. That's probably better average attendance than a normal Saints game.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Before this year.
What's capacity in there? Like, 80, I'm guessing?
Are we really? What a weird question to ask. Like all the Katrina victims are going to go sit in the seat?
No.
They're going to sleep in the seat.
No, I mean, like, think about it, though. Like, if there's 100,000 people and there's only 80,000 seats, I mean, that's got to be uncomfortable. But if,
no, even with I mean, you sit in a stadium for a very short period of time.
Yeah.
If they filled that and you're sitting in a seat for 4 days, that's not a good
It'd be like sitting like in an airplane, but like worse.
With no electricity and no plumbing.
A Rolling Stones concert in the 80s attracted 87,000 people.
Wow.
But, the football seating capacity is about 70,000.
I bet government officials got to that Rolling Stone concert pretty quickly. In and out, no problems. It took them a week to get to the Superdome. Was that right?
Yeah, something like that.
And the crazy thing about that was, the first time I heard about Katrina, we were at PAX, like PAX number 3, back when it was still at the Maidenbauer Center.
Mm-hmm.
And we were out of town, and we were about to fly back, and some kid, I remember he had a big sword on his back. He was a cosplayer. He said, how are you guys going to get back to Austin? And we said, we're going to fly. He says, you're not going to fly. There's a hurricane coming, and it's about to destroy New Orleans. Like, what is this kid talking about? He said, hurricane's going to destroy New Orleans. Yeah, there's a hurricane coming, and it's going to put New Orleans completely underwater. I think you're full of shit. 4 days later, the hurricane hit, and then it was 3 or 4 days after that the flooding started because the levees started to break. And then a week after that the government got there to help those people. And I was thinking, how does the kid with the sword on his back know about this?
How does Sephiroth know what's going
on? Really? You know? How does the Japanese video game character that I'm talking to know about this, and the government is not prepared to handle it?
And that dude's an asshole. Oh, man. Yeah, I remember that kid also. And then we got to the airport when we were leaving Seattle, and they had, like, the weather on. And we saw it. You see this giant storm in the Gulf. You're like, holy shit. Sephiroth was right.
He was.
I was living in Orlando at the time of Katrina. Actually, I had a roommate in Orlando from New Orleans. And like, I had no idea it was going to be that big of a deal. Like, no one did. And then all of a sudden, it was like, this was like the perfect storm. Like, this will hit and destroy the city. And it's like, oh shit, dude, you might want to get a hold of your parents. And it was like really weird. And then it hit, and like he lost touch with his family. And it's like, and he just up and drove to New Orleans. He got in his car and drove away. He was like, all right, I'm out. Peace.
I really wonder if you tried to drive there, what that experience would have been like. To try to drive in,
probably would have been stopped in what I guess either Alabama or Mississippi, right?
Would they have? Did they block the freeways?
I would assume so.
They did block the freeways, but and he could have gotten into Louisiana, but I'm sure once he got near the city. I mean, yeah.
Well, it was all flooded. I mean, you've seen those photos of downtown that were just like completely underwater.
Yeah.
There was a recent settlement or some kind of judgment where they blamed the entire thing on the Army Corps of Engineers.
Secure and update network
some court did that. I don't know what the jurisdiction of that court is, but it's the first step in essentially then now the government paying damages to people who were part of the flood.
Yeah, I'll have to find the link for that. I do remember reading something about that a couple of weeks ago.
Did you listen to the podcast last week?
No, I haven't listened to it yet.
Okay, we had a funny story that you'll probably appreciate where there was a consumerist story about American Airlines. There was a stewardess who went on a rampage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
And that Delta, after the story was posted, offered people who were on the flight gold status on Delta for free.
Right.
To switch to Delta. And we were making the joke that why don't we just say we were on the flight and get gold status on Delta? How would they check that?
Well,
I'm sure you have to prove.
They have a roster.
I'm sure American's not going to give them the manifest for the flight. I mean, if 10,000 people said, yeah, I was on the flight, and Delta then shows up and goes, hey, American, can you verify these people? American go, nope, sorry.
None of those people were on the flight.
Or they would go, yep, all of them were.
Yeah, we had a 10,000 seat 747.
You don't have those over at Delta? Oh, sad.
We put wings on the Superdome. And we flew it to Columbus and back.
Did you all talk about the new 787 last week?
Dreamliner.
No.
It had its first takeoff test. It actually left the ground for the first time last week, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty cool.
Tell me if this is exciting, Brady.
How big is it?
Tell me if this is exciting. You're going to your plane, going back from San Francisco, and you're walking up to the gate. You're with two other guys. You look at the plane. It's the Shamu plane.
You already tried to get me excited about
damn
this.
it.
Not the least
I
bit
was so excited. I was so happy to be on the Shamu plane.
We did not fucking care. Jack was like, come on, it's the Shamu plane. We're like, all right, awesome.
Yeah.
My only memory of the Shamu plane was the dude pointing his finger at me, telling me not to bring on my giant alcoholic drink onto the Shamu plane.